Okay, so today we are doing a deep dive into something that honestly reads more like a thriller novel than real life finance. We're looking at the collapse of the hedge fund Quorum, an absolutely massive $75 billion fraud, and the really shocking trial of Grace Brookstein, the co-owner.
Yeah, the scale is just, it's almost hard to grasp. $75 billion. The sources are clear this wasn't just big, it was the single largest financial fraud in U.S. history, period. And this kind of money, it doesn't just vanish from big bank accounts. It wiped out small charities, ordinary people's retirement funds, the elderly. It hit Main Street hard.
Right, which is why everyone was looking for a villain, someone to blame. So our mission today is to dig into these sources, follow this incredibly twisted trail, and try to figure out, who really orchestrated this $75 billion theft and what actually happened to Lenny Brookstein, the so-called King of Wall Street.
Let's start with the trial itself, because the setup is really key. Quorum was Lenny's baby, founded by him but co-owned with his wife, Grace, who is much younger. When it all fell apart, well, all eyes turned to her.
And the public was definitely ready to believe she was guilty. The press painted her as this Gilded Age pariah. You have this image of a former gymnast, sort of fragile, almost childlike, showing up to court in like a $7,000 Chanel dress.
And a mink coat?
A floor-length mink coat, yeah. That didn't exactly help her image. The headline, "Let them eat cake," just captured everything, didn't it? This idea that she was completely out of touch, heartless.
Mm-hmm. And that public anger, it fed right into the prosecution's case.
Oh, yeah?
The DA, Angela Michelle, he had skin in the game. Apparently the Brooksteins' dealings had ruined his parents' pizza place in Brooklyn. Their life savings gone. So for him, it was personal.
Absolutely. He wanted justice, maybe even a bit of revenge, and Grace was the face of Quorum by then, and he got the conviction. Manhattan Criminal Courts building, 5 counts, big ones, securities fraud, money laundering, even perjury.
Wow, and the sentence.
Cumulative life sentence, effectively, yeah. Over 100 years, she wasn't getting out. Okay, but here's where things get complicated, right? The public saw a guilty woman, the court agreed. But the sources, even her own lawyer, Frank Hammond, they suggest something else was going on.
Well, Hammond initially thought Lenny was framed. But the legal paperwork, that told a different story about who was actually liable.
Right, let's unpack that, because 6 months before everything collapsed, before Lenny disappeared, his trusted guy, John Merivale, later revealed that Lenny had transferred his entire ownership stake in Quorum to Grace, the day before their big annual ball.
Exactly. His whole share, it wasn't just symbolic. It was a legal transfer. So boom, suddenly, Grace is the sole legal partner of Quorum, which meant legally, she was responsible for all those billions in losses when they came to light.
So the charges, the securities fraud, misrepresenting things to investors, the money laundering.
They stuck. Because on paper, she was the owner when the huge hole was found. Even if maybe she didn't orchestrate it, legally, she was it.
So a conviction that might be morally wrong, but legally solid, all because of what looks like a deliberate setup by her husband.
And Lenny, at this point, was presumed dead, took his boat out in a storm off Nantucket, vanished. Body found later, ruled a suicide.
But Grace saw the body, didn't she? And that's kind of where her own mission kicked off. She didn't buy the suicide story.
Not at all. What's really fascinating is what she noticed. The sources say she saw the body was mutilated. And she remembered the morgue guy struggling to get Lenny's wedding ring onto the corpse's finger. Like it didn't quite fit.
Ooh, that detail just buried in the file.
Yeah. For her, that was proof. That wasn't Lenny in the morgue.
So she gets convicted, sent to Bedford Hills, this maximum security women's prison, a brutal place. And this is where she changes. Completely. There's trauma, a really violent assault by another inmate, then a suicide attempt.
Right, using pennyroyal oil. That happened after she found out she was pregnant following a rape in prison. It's horrific stuff. But surviving that attempt, it didn't break her. It seemed to forge her into something else. She realized being a victim wasn't going to work. She needed to fight back differently.
And we see that almost immediately. Her first escape attempt is just,
Right.
Wow. She gets out of Bedford Hills, hidden inside a crate of modeling clay.
With help from fellow inmates Karen Willis and Cora Buds. They planned it. And that's when she becomes Lizzie Woolley, her first alias, shedding Grace Brookstein.
But she gets caught again, right? After the abortion attempt, she ends up in a hospital.
Recaptured, hospitalized, yeah. But even then, she doesn't give up. She uses her small size, her gymnast background maybe, squeezes into a ventilation shaft at the Putnam Medical Center, and she's gone again.
It's incredible. The transformation is just Complete. From this naive socialite to, I don't know, a fugitive operative.
Totally. Using different names, Lizzie Woolley, Linda Reynolds learning survival skills on the fly, all focused on one thing, finding out what really happened to Lenny and clearing her name.
And this, of course, puts her right in the crosshairs of Detective Mitch Connors. He's assigned to bring her back. And he's driven to, apparently his own father's murder was never solved, so he's relentless.
Yeah. And initially, he sees her just like everyone else did. You know, the greedy rich bitch the tabloids created.
Yeah.
But as he digs deeper, and especially after a few near-miss encounters with her, his view starts to shift. He sees her focus, her determination.
And she's not waiting for the cops to figure it out, is she? She hires her own help, a private investigator, Davy Bucola.
Right. And Bucola confirms what she suspected from the start. He gets the autopsy report, clear signs of mutilation, bruising. This wasn't suicide, it was murder.
Okay, but here's where it gets really messy. Another betrayal.
Yep, the PI, Bucola. He decides the $200,000 reward for Grace is worth more than his fee or, his integrity. He sells her out.
Unbelievable. So Grace has to confront him.
She does. Needs that file he has. It comes down to a confrontation, and she ends up shooting him to get the file and escape. The stakes just keep getting higher. Trust is lethal.
So now she has Bucola's file, the proof of murder. What does she do?
She goes systematic. Back to that weekend Lenny disappeared off Nantucket, who was at their estate. She starts digging into the guest list. Powerful people. And guess what? Every single one seems to have a motive. Secrets, debts, revenge.
Okay, let's break that down. Who are we talking about?
First, there's Senator Jack Warner. Big gambling problem, huge debts. And Lenny was blackmailing him, using the debt to force the senator to influence hedge fund legislation, stuff that directly helped Quorum.
Wow. Politics, finance, blackmail, and his alibi.
Totally fake. Claimed he was out sailing in the storm. Turns out he was with his mistress, Jasmine Delabine. And get this, a Coast Guard helped cover it up, which tells you something about Lenny's retread.
Definitely. Okay, who else?
Grace's own sister, Connie Gray. Turns out she had an affair with Lenny. He ended it abruptly. Was she seeking revenge? No, money. She admitted she blackmailed him for $15 million right before the collapse. Got her money out just in time.
Her own sister. Okay, who else was tangled up in this?
Andrew and Maria Preston. They were deep in it financially. Andrew admitted he'd been embezzling from Quorum. About $3 million. Why? To cover his wife Maria's insane spending habits. Put them in deep with some very dangerous loan sharks.
And that connection turned deadly, didn't it?
It did. Maria Preston was killed. A sophisticated car bomb. The sources specifically mentioned the method points to the Mafia Casa Nostra M.O. Andrew got beaten badly, and later he committed suicide. The ripples of this fraud were violent.
Okay, so multiple people with motives, secrets. But the key piece, the one that unravels it all, that leads back to John Merivale, right? Lenny's right-hand man.
Exactly. Detective Connors, doing his own digging, finds Merivale's alibi being in Boston during the storm is a complete lie.
Where was he really?
Right there in Nantucket, at the Walwinet Hotel, meeting with Maria Preston, the woman who later got killed by that car bomb.
And Connors noticed something else, didn't he, about Merivale?
Yeah, this is great detail. Merivale usually had this noticeable stutter. But when he confidently told his fake Boston alibi, the stutter vanished, completely smooth. For Connors, that was basically a confession. He was performing, he was lying.
So Merivale is the thread to pull? Grace follows him.
Yes, but it's incredibly dangerous. First, she runs into this rogue FBI agent, Gavin Williams. He tries to kill her, sets her car on fire with her in it. She manages to turn the tables, kills him in self-defense. But it shows how high the stakes are.
And this trail leads her where?
Halfway around the world. Antananarivo, Madagascar. Why there? No U.S. extradition treaty. A perfect place to disappear with $75 billion.
And she finds Merivale there at some kind of retreat.
She does. At Le Cocoon, the Cocoon. It's supposed to be her and Lenny's secret getaway. She finds Merivale, and she finds Lenny Brookstein. Alive.
Oh my God, he wasn't dead at all.
Not even close. And he confesses everything. The whole $75 billion fraud, faking his own death. It was all his plan, executed with Merivale's help. He murdered some poor homeless guy, called him a lazy drunk, drugged him with bourbon, mutilated the body, forced his own wedding ring on a finger, all to create a convincing corpse.
That is beyond cold, just pure sociopathy. And why frame Grace? Why put her through all that?
Get this, he said it was because she was an American princess. Too soft. He wanted her to suffer, to learn survival, to become strong and cynical like him. The plan was, apparently, for her to eventually figure it all out, find him in Madagascar, and then they could live happily ever after with the stolen billions. As equals.
That's warped, just completely twisted. How did Grace react?
Vengeance. Pure and simple. She shoots him. But just then Mitch Connors arrives. He'd track Maryvale there too. He reacts instantly, throws himself in front of Lenny, saves his life.
Wow. Connor saves the man who orchestrated everything.
Yeah. In the chaos, Maryvale grabs a shotgun, starts firing wildly, and the police take him down. Permanently.
So what's the aftermath? Lenny survives. Maryvale's dead.
Lenny gets brought back to the U.S. No escape now. He's tried, convicted fraud, murder of the homeless man. He waives all his appeals, and he's executed. Swift justice, in a way.
And Grace, after everything.
She gets a presidential pardon. The official line is she was a victim of her husband's duplicity, which, I mean, seems pretty accurate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does. So the system eventually kind of worked, but only because she went completely outside it.
Exactly. If you zoom out the whole thing, from the fraud itself to the final execution, it feels less like a pursuit of legal justice and more like a really long, brutal quest for vengeance and closure. Grace got justice, but only after 2 years on the run, breaking laws, confronting killers.
And the personal cost for her. Mitch Connors, the detective who saged Lenny but clearly developed feelings for her, he confesses his love, offers her a chance at a normal life.
But she turns him down. The source quotes her, saying she can no more marry again than fly to the moon. She just walks away, disappears into the city. She says she's lost the capacity to feel anything anymore. All she wants is peace.
Wow. So after surviving all that, the financial ruin, prison, the attacks, the ultimate betrayal, what's left?
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When your entire reality, your identity, the person you love, turns out to be built on a monstrous lie.
Yeah.
What does survival even mean? Can you ever truly find peace or love when you carry that kind of knowledge? What's the real cost of enduring something like that? That's maybe something for you to think about.